Cryptocurrency has been all over the news and social media for a long time now.
One Bitcoin.
Digital cryptocurrency.
Bitcoin. What's happening to Bitcoin?
Virtual currency, otherwise known in this case as Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Virtual currency.
The Bitcoin.
Something called Bitcoins.
A global trend for the digital age, many people have had great success using cryptocurrencies.
The early investors in Bitcoin and other altcoins have done extremely well.
If you bought in at the early days, you would actually be a millionaire right now.
However, not everyone sees this as a surefire solution to the world's financial problems.
It's you're taking a punt, you're taking a gamble, so don't put in any more than you're willing to lose.
People will just buy it on the off chance that it may go up one day, and if it doesn't, then they've lost.
So what exactly is cryptocurrency? Is it the future of our economy or just a passing fad? Does it offer freedom from the banks? Is it a safe bet or just a roll of the dice? I'm Brian Degning and this is the Cryptocurrency Gamble. We've all heard of cryptocurrency, or more likely you've heard of Bitcoin, the most popular of these new digital currencies. Some of you may even own Bitcoin, but how much do you actually know about it? What does it all mean? What is cryptocurrency?
Cryptocurrency came about initially in around about 2009, just after the financial crisis that saw a lot of the banks become bailed out by the governments. It was created as an alternative form of currency for everyone to use that isn't controlled by anyone.
Cryptocurrency at its most simplest is a method of transferring value between various parties that does not rely on a central authority, such as a bank.
So cryptocurrency is effectively a form of money that exists on your computer, on the internet. It's not based on coins, it's not based on notes. It exists only as a form of data. So it's something that's on your computer or mobile phone that you can spend and give to other people.
So cryptocurrency is a natural extension of our information age. In a world that we don't actually need paper money, and we don't actually need plastic cards anymore.
After the financial crash, an idea emerged. Wouldn't it be simpler if people could just deal directly with each other without relying on the banks that had failed them? Thus, in 2009, the first decentralised cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, was created. But how does it actually work?
A digital currency is based on a blockchain. And the first blockchain with Bitcoin on it started in 2009.
And a blockchain is a historical representation of transactions that have taken place. And if you create a transaction sending tokens from you to someone else, then you've carried out an exchange. Now, if then people give value and assign a value to these tokens, then it's the same way as passing someone a pound coin. You're just passing them an electronic representation of something that people assign value to.
I always say this because most people don't realise it, that blockchain is not the same as Bitcoin. You can have the blockchain perfectly happily on its own, but you could not have Bitcoin or other altcoins without the blockchain. So if you like, the blockchain is actually a facilitator of Bitcoin and other altcoins.
Traditionally, if you transfer someone £5, the bank records this transaction in their ledger. Now, because the bank has only one single ledger, this makes them vulnerable to hacking, where someone can sneak in, alter that ledger without the bank even realising it. This can't happen with cryptocurrency because of blockchain. Blockchain works by having thousands of different computers recording each transaction, and each set of transactions is called a block. Each block has to match the block of previous transactions before it, thus creating a chain of blocks or a blockchain. So does this make it safer than traditional banking?
If you do everything correctly, it is 100% safe. The blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain, has never been hacked, and I can't honestly believe that it ever could be hacked. I mean, never say never, but it's infinitesimal. The way we'd like to describe it is, if you think of all the grains of sand in the world and then think of all the grains of sand there are in the universe, and you look for one particular grain of sand, the chances of the blockchain being hacked is that small.
And fortunately, the banking system that we've created has so many opportunities for fraud and for things to go wrong. A cryptocurrency world tries to make sure that virtually everything that's transacted is completely 100% trusted.
The thing to realise about cryptocurrency is it allows us to do things that only the bank could do before.
I think the benefits to the general public are still to be seen. The majority of people are not using cryptocurrencies. They tend to be still quite niche. One of the big potential advantages in the future is it allows you to build a form of a decentralised currency where there's no one entity in control of it.
But it certainly allows the people to take back power over what they conduct their trade with.
So we see it as a way of creating a completely new economy, a way that small businesses can actually trade and buy and sell services through tokens.
Cryptocurrencies have allowed people to wake up and realise that there's a new way to do things without involving banks anymore.
This means that cryptocurrency should be much safer than using the bank. And by cutting out the middleman, we avoid losing our money like we did in the financial crash. I like having control of my own money. It's much safer than stuffing it under a mattress. But how do I go about getting these new currencies?
But to do that, you need a fiat to crypto exchange. There are various exchanges around,
which is a website that effectively acts a bit like a currency exchange that you'd see in the high street.
In an exchange, you can convert from our fiat currencies, from dollars or euros, into our electronic tokens.
You're then able to trade on the exchange. You can purchase with pounds, dollars, euros, whatever you want.
Financial freedom seems to be one of the running themes. Now let's meet some people who have invested some of their hard-earned cash into these currencies and see how and why they got involved.
It was probably around last June. I was talking to my brother and he was like, have you heard of this cryptocurrency thing called Ripple? I'm like, no. But I was fascinated because he was saying about how a month ago it was a cent, the next month it was 25 cents, and there's all this hype about cryptocurrency. They're saying it's going to go to $2, $10. So you're thinking, if I get in here quick, I can make a buck. But yeah, it was from speaking to my brother. He found out about it, and then I just got quite curious about it.
I researched the price of Bitcoin, and it was £200 for one Bitcoin. And I remember thinking at the time, I can't afford that.
For me, cryptocurrency is a pastime. It's not just something I do to try and gain some future investments and hopefully fortunes.
What I didn't understand at that point was that you could buy as much of a Bitcoin as you wanted, or as much or as little. At the time I thought you had to buy one. I didn't realise you could buy pretty much any decimal point percentage of a Bitcoin that you wanted.
And people say, oh, you're doing Bitcoin. I go, well, actually, no, I'm not doing Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is the coin that kind of starts you off. Things like Ethereum, Litecoin, these tend to be the coins where people invest in first and then they trade on trading platforms with these coins.
The highs of, at the end of the day, I'm invested to make a profit. So I have maybe gone a week or two where I've significantly made a nice percentage on my investment. That's reassurance that the market can do that, you know what I mean? But on the flip side, it can fall just as fast, and if not faster.
There's Facebook groups, there's groups on Telegram, which are all dedicated to cryptocurrencies and people trading it. And you have different slants on it. Some people are looking for a fast buck, looking to pump and dump coins, raise their value, sell them, and then buy them back in at cheap prices.
I think the get-rich-quick mentality has contributed to a huge amount of exposure for Bitcoin. I see that as a good thing because people are aware of it. And obviously the more people that are aware of it and that dabble in it is a good thing because it tests its robustness.
I'm impressed with the teams that these cryptocurrencies have got behind them. I've seen how a cryptocurrency can explode overnight as well, or over a few months, and that's the exciting part.
People need to change their mindset in terms of how they view money and how they view the value of money, because everyone thinks that if you've got £10 in your pocket, that you've got £10 in your pocket, and ultimately it's losing value every second. Yeah, sure, it's £10, but the value of that £10 today is probably less than it was yesterday, but people just see it as £10. Whereas the difference with cryptocurrency is because it's constantly changing and there's always this point of comparison with either US dollars or pounds or whatever, you see it changing all the time. So there's this perception that it's really volatile.
Imagine buying crypto is like buying chips in a casino. Except in this casino, no one is gambling. Instead, everyone's just sitting around hoping their chips are worth more when they leave than they were when they came in.
Right now, cryptocurrencies, it doesn't have any real intrinsic worth, so it's only worth what somebody's wanting to pay for it. And because it is so volatile, like somebody could pay me £50 for a service and the next day that could be worth 35.
One of the problems you have is the volatility of the market. When if I buy something an hour ago and it's $10 and I go to sell it 2 hours, use it 2 hours later and it's $7, what happens then?
The reason that the price is going up and causing people to make gains is because the supply is fundamentally limited, which means there's only a finite number of these coins to buy. And that means that when more people want them because they hear the hype and think the price is going to go up, if you've got a finite number of one thing and everybody wants them, then those with them charge more, so the price rises. And that's how you see prices peak at about $20,000. And then when the price gets to that point, people go, oh, okay, I could sell that and make a good bit of money, because as I say, you haven't made the money till you sell at that price. So they do a sell, and next thing you know, other people see the price slightly drop and go, I want to sell too because I only bought in high.
Massive peaks and massive dips, because obviously people buy in and then everyone gets really excited, and generally my gauge is as soon as you see a BBC News article about it, get out, because it's about to drop. Do you know what I mean? If the BBC are reporting on it, then like everyone's aware of it, get out.
Well, the biggest danger is the volatility. I mean, that is, think of buying a cup of coffee with, a bit of Bitcoin, and the guy takes your bit of Bitcoin and he goes the next morning to cash it in to get himself some pounds, and he discovers the price has fallen. So that's a big danger.
You could have your money in crypto, you could go to bed and the next morning you wake up and you've lost 25% of your portfolio, because normal investors like me that we don't really touch the surface in terms of influencing or manipulating the market, but you get these big hedge funds, whales they're called, that have got billions, and they're the ones that can really move the market. So it is a gamble.
Yeah, well, yeah, it depends on what you're doing, I suppose. If your intention is obviously to sort of buy low, sell high, then obviously volatility is kind of a good thing to some extent, right? Because it gives you more opportunity to do that. But the way I see it is ultimately like it's probably just going to be a short-term thing. Like the more adoption that there is, the less volatility that there is.
Like any investment, there are highs and lows, which for the inexperienced buyer can be very risky, especially if you don't know the market. However, even experienced cryptocurrency users have found other factors to contend with.
There's a lot of sort of criminals involved in cryptocurrency. It's anonymous, so you can send money and receive money and there's no real trace of it, if that makes sense. No name, no address and whatever. So that's what's attractive to sort of criminals. So if you were doing business with somebody that had every intention of stealing from you, they could.
And I think, yes, there's some companies are making 20, 30, 40 million in coin offerings, and then they're disappearing. And they've walked away with $30 million. And people are investing their hard-earned cash. So yes, it is a huge concern that there's a lot of scams out there.
People are fundamentally quite familiar with the idea of when you put money in the bank, its deposit is protected by the FSCS scheme. There's no such scheme in place for cryptocurrencies. If you lose the money, you've lost it forever.
The downsides have definitely been missing out on opportunity. I've cashed out a few times at a loss, and then all of a sudden the coins went up. So there has been a poor run of decisions, but it was early on in the game. I didn't understand the market. I bought into the hype without really knowing too much information about it. But it's kind of paved the way now to have like a strong portfolio, and I'm more patient now, understanding that it's not going to be an overnight success.
Bitcoin, people talk about Bitcoin like digital gold, and like that's kind of a valid comparison, because like transaction fees are like really high for Bitcoin Core, which means that if you're storing lots of money in it, then like your transaction fees are kind of reasonable because actually when it comes to like the actual volume of the amount of money you're storing there, it's a small percentage of that. Whereas obviously if you're buying a Mars bar with Bitcoin Core and you're paying a $30 fee or whatever, it's like that's not reasonable.
The same way if you send a crypto payment to someone and you get their address wrong, that money's gone forever. It's not like PayPal where you can phone and say I've made a mistake or wrong email address or the bank put in the wrong code. With crypto, when it's gone. So it's very risky if you're buying goods now with crypto, even though some shops will accept it, because they can easily just turn around and say, no, you're not getting it back.
I hear a lot of people say a lot of different things about cryptocurrency, and actually one of the things that I find quite interesting, people talk about it being used for crime and all that sort of stuff, and you're like, well, if you look at the thing, or certainly if you look at the currency that is most used for crime, it's cash. So I mean, to say that Bitcoin or whatever cryptocurrency is used for crime or illegal activity, sure, it's like anything else. Do you know what I mean? That's never going to change because people are always going to want to break the law.
We're stuck in between the crypto and fiat realms at the moment, where we find it necessary to convert between Bitcoin to pounds to whatever else. If ASDA accepted Bitcoin for their groceries, then it wouldn't be a problem. If you could pay your council tax in Bitcoin or any other virtual currency, then that wouldn't be a problem, and you wouldn't need to convert back into the fiat realm. But until we actually get there, then obviously we still need to rely on somebody to provide us the liquidity we want to get in and out of the currency when they want to.
With these dangers and the sheer amount of cryptocurrencies around, it appears we need something or someone to help keep everything in check.
There's so many people trying to flood the market, and they're shouting off and shooting off what they can do this and do that. There's no real rules, so I think there is for a sheriff to come in, but that does go against the cryptocurrency world.
I compare it to the Wild West. In the good old days of the Wild West, anything went. You could make lots of money, and eventually things got quite bad, and therefore good old Washington cracks down and everything gets sorted out, and now the Wild West is a fantastic California, all these places, fantastically wealthy places because it's been done right, and to a certain extent the cryptocurrency market's the same sort of thing.
It's like being back in the Wild West. There's no real rules or regulations surrounding the use, the issuance, or even the implied worth of any of these tokens. I mean, anybody can turn around, fork a coin, create their own copy of it, and if you can convince somebody that your vision is worth money, that you're going to do what you say you're going to do.
And you see the move in America and elsewhere, Japan and Korea, for regulation. Now the whole idea of cryptocurrencies is to decentralise and show it to a man sort of idea, but as a civil servant I see the value in regulation, rules and procedures.
I see an awful lot more regulation coming into cryptocurrency as it becomes more mainstream, as more of the general public become involved with it rather than the geeks. Then yes, the government will step in to, in their minds, protect people.
Obviously the big vision of cryptocurrency is to eventually be using cryptocurrencies as a replacement to fiat. So once it's more regulated, a bit more safe and a bit more mainstream, then I think there will be a time when it can be used.
Oh, I absolutely see it as something that will be established, and not in 100 years from now, but in 10 years from now we will see these kinds of regulations, and it may even be sooner than that, because things are changing fast. The only thing we can be certain about is that they are going to change even faster.
Given everything we've learned about cryptocurrencies, the risks and the rewards, what does the future hold?
10 years ago, the amount of cash that I use compared to now, I mean, I use next to no cash. Like I really don't. And it's like when my daughter's like, oh, have you got some money to go and buy an ice cream? I'm like, genuinely, I don't have any cash. Like, I've never got any change on me. So, contactless payments, Apple Pay and all that sort of stuff. You know, we're moving fiat currency more digital all of the time. So to me, it makes perfect sense that you would ultimately end up with a completely digital way of transacting with each other.
I don't see necessarily cryptocurrencies as being exclusive or fiat currencies being exclusive. I personally believe that there is a place for cryptocurrencies alongside fiat currencies. Now, what the percentage of cryptocurrencies will be relative to fiat, I have no idea. But it could be quite a lot. You know, it could be 20%, 30%, I don't know. But it's certainly much easier, it's much cheaper to transact. It's well worth having it. I mean, for example, there was just the other day we had this carry on with Visa. There were all these people who couldn't buy anything because their Visa card collapsed. That wouldn't happen.
Contactless payments or Apple Pay or Android Pay. People are embracing this kind of technology, and that technology could very easily, from a technical standpoint, be turned around into carrying out a digital, you know, cryptocurrency-based payment.
I think the argument has been made that this is one of the most transformational things that's happened, certainly since the start of the internet. So if we were to roll back to the start of the internet, I'm sure there was many people who reckoned that the internet wouldn't scale to be part of our lives. But it is now part of it, and it's a natural part of virtually everything that we do.
I think payment in crypto's probably a logical progression, personally. Whether it's going to be something that will happen in our lifetime remains to be seen, but it's nice to be part of something early on, right?
With the number that are emerging, I think it would be nearly impossible to ever get people to reach a consensus on which one to accept. And I don't think the general public will ever accept a situation where that's the wrong type of cryptocurrency for that shop. You can use your card in any store, and with about the exception of Amex, you actually struggle because of acceptance. You'll not have an issue using a Visa card in a shop or a MasterCard in a shop. If you end up with 5,000-10,000 different types of currency, that's not going to be adopted. So it would rely on one de facto standard currency emerging.
Our opportunity is within the next 4 or 5 years is to really transform our whole economy so that we can actually start to lead the world in innovation around blockchain, distributed ledgers and cryptocurrencies.
There's all sorts of figures about 90% of startups will fail in the first year and all these kinds of things. And why should it be any different in a cryptocurrency? It might even be more than 95%, it could be 99%, it might even be even higher than that. So, you might end up with your coin, but chances are it's not going to succeed. I think the chance of any coin that's created today or tomorrow becoming the future coin is minuscule.
The future seems to depend largely on regulation and mass adoption. With these things in place, cryptocurrencies become less volatile but more accessible. However, this does go against the ideologies at the heart of its creation. So before we all go out and start loading up in Bitcoin, let's see if our contributors have any last words of wisdom.
Well, the dangers for anybody investing in cryptocurrency, what they don't know a lot about, is the same as investing in anything you don't know a lot about. It's a stupid thing to do, unless you know what you're talking about, or are prepared to lose the money. Don't put the money in the first place. Do your homework, study it.
Certainly when it comes to finance and money and anything based, around money, I think advice is key. Like knowledge is power. You need to be informed about this stuff and not just blindly go into it. I think that's where a lot of people did make a lot of mistakes early on in cryptocurrencies.
You have to do your research. You have to invest in cryptocurrencies which you feel add value to the world and can actually have a sound business platform.
Cut your emotions off to it as well. If you are panicking about a 10% loss overnight, then maybe it's not for you. But you need to understand that if you stay in the game long enough and the way it's going, then you should make a profit from it.
Buy low, sell high. That's what every cryptocurrency trader lives by. Regardless if you're a day trader or if someone looking for long-term benefits. If you buy a coin, and they're always worse, I tell my friends who are also in coins, I've just bought the coin So wait 24 hours and it'll be half the price. Because I don't have that luck. But that's what happens. Like, and not to be turned by it. If you get a coin that drops 20% over a day, don't panic sell and think, oh no, the world's falling apart. Good chances are 4 days later it's going to be up 40%.
Buy what you can afford to lose, basically. And if you lose it, then you're not going to be upset. And you'll never, unless obviously you're not very safe with it. You know, you'll always have however much of that cryptocurrency that you bought. So even if it loses all of its value, well, you've still got some stuff that's worth nothing. There's some solace in that. It's worth nothing, but you've still got it, right? So you've still got the thing you bought. Great.
I think a good analogy would be the kind of Dutch tulip mania that happened, or tulip fever, a long time ago, where tulip bulbs, everybody wanted tulips and there was a shortage, and people started buying and selling tulip bulbs almost as a kind of form of currency and a means in itself. And in the end of it, it got so hyped that someone actually exchanged a house for a single tulip bulb. And then very shortly afterwards, people started to realise very rapidly, this is absolutely absurd. I've just given someone a house in exchange for this bulb that might not even grow, and very quickly fell from that. But somebody sold their house for a single tulip bulb. So I think that's the kind of sort of hype we have to be careful of here, is that people can get caught up in the buying and selling itself and actually lose sight of what they're doing and what they're paying and what they're getting.
What started as an alternative currency has made some people winners and some people losers. Where the future lies for cryptocurrency, no one really knows. The only thing we do know is to do not bet more than you can afford to lose, and be as informed as possible before you take part in the cryptocurrency gamble.